Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline.
Super Dave.
And then you see him on the stream. He's joining us there. Dave Thomas, voice of the Riders. You know what? I thought it would be on a Tuesday, Dave, because isn't the CFL, don't they usually put out big news on Tuesdays at like 1 o'clock Eastern time? And then instead it was a Thursday at some random morning-ish time?
Hey, don't fault it. It's here, ladies and gentlemen. And it's funny. I've got a friend that is a manager of a campground in northern Saskatchewan. His phone's been going today. Of course, regional parks are booking campsites. You mentioned the wedding planners, the travel agents around Saskatchewan. This is a gigantic afternoon for them. And I kid you not, we may be saying it jokingly, but the people that I talk to, this is one of the busiest days that they've got right now. It's scramble mode.
Well, yeah, hotels in and around Regina.
Oh, yeah. Just family trips, everything, right? You got to, like, they're playing Thanksgiving Friday. Like that sets up the Thanksgiving weekend.
Let's go around the horn here. Start with you, Dave. What kind of, when you look at the schedule and the takeaways, what kind of jumps out to you?
Well, right now, what I'm doing, the deep dive I'm doing, is the competitive balance. You recall the Riders in the midsummer, right? When they had that winless drought, they were in the midst of 10 straight weeks of games. And within those 10 weeks, you'll recall that they went out east 3 different times. They played in Montreal, they played in Toronto, and they played in Ottawa. And in all 3 instances, they were playing those teams on short weeks coming off bye weeks, right? So Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto were all coming off a bye week when the Riders played them. That's been evened out this year. And going through it team by team, the team that has the most rest on average between games this season is going to be the Ottawa Red Blacks, while the Saskatchewan Roughriders are nicely nestled right in the middle of the pack with 6.19 days between games. So that's a big one. And then when it comes to playing teams that are coming off bye weeks, the Saskatchewan Roughriders are going to do it 3 times, and that's kind of the average. The team that does it the least this year is Toronto. They only have to do it twice, while the team that does it the most are the Edmonton Elks, who will do it 4 times, playing teams that come off of their bye weeks.
That's a bouncing ball right there. I'm trying to follow along with what Dave's saying.
It's good for the Riders, much better than what it was last year, because they don't have to worry about such a long stretch between bye weeks, because they've got bye weeks in week 5, 10, and 16, which I think is huge. And the number of short weeks that they've got are very minimal.
Yeah, obviously the short weeks last year we were getting decimated by injuries, and it was like we played Saturday and then we were right back at it Tuesday afternoon. Like it was a rec tournament. Yeah, so we don't have any of that.
Fill the water bottles with beer and going back out. Yeah,
when's our next game? Tonight at 11. What jumps out at you, Sharky?
Balance. What is what jumps out at me? Balance. We're not on the road for 3. We're not at home for an extended period of time. There's a good balance of it. East-West, there's a good balance. We're not doing 5 games in a row out east before coming home or something like that. So that's what I see when I looked at it, was what's the balance going to be like? And I think it's there. I think there's an opportunity for, like I say, the Riders are better prepared to be well rested between games, over six days between games. So those are crucial. They seem small, but they're crucial things in the course of a long football season.
I wonder if, Dave, and I don't know if you know the travel schedules and I don't know what's going on, but I wonder, the June 14th game in Hamilton, a Saturday, and then there's a turnaround and play Friday in Toronto. I wonder if that's just to stay in the greater Toronto area week for the Riders, or do you bust back 3 hours, flight, unload, do everything, so then you would get back Sunday, Monday's really your day off, Tuesday, maybe, it seems like a short week, because then you're back on the bird Thursday, heading out.
I think it's okay.
Much to the chagrin of a lot of people in my household, I'm week to week, man. I just find out what time I'm leaving probably 2-3 days before, and I just go with it. But looking at all the teams' schedules this year, there is an opportunity for all but one team to do exactly that, where they can combine 2 trips into one. So, for example, the Edmonton Elks, they've got an opportunity where they play in Ottawa and Montreal back-to-back. There's an opportunity for Montreal, who is coming out and playing in BC and in Calgary, right?
That's got recipe for disaster. if you're spending a week or 7 days in the Montreal-Ottawa area.
With a bunch of young men. Yeah.
Or over under on how many guys are on their own to get back to Edmonton. Sorry to interrupt. No, and it's so it's also the we're starting the season on Thursday, June 5th here, the home of football, Mosaic Stadium, and then are we closing it off too or something?
Yeah, we play the final regular season game of the season, October the 25th at home to the BC Lions. And I love the schedule from a fan's perspective in Saskatchewan because up until last season, I had to drive every time I was coming in for a Rider game. And had to is probably a really terse term, but I drove every time when I was coming in, right? Whether it was from Weyburn, whether it was from Saskatoon, whether it was from a campsite, whatever. We were always driving in. And now you look at this schedule, there's only the one Thursday night game at home, and that's the very start of the season, the home opener. And then you look at some of the family-friendly times that they've incorporated this year, because throughout the CFL, they've bumped back start times on weekends for a lot of their games in order to allow families to travel to the game, because a 3:00 start on a Saturday is much different than a Saturday at 7 p.m., for example. So there's a number of those sprinkled throughout the Rider schedule and the entire CFL schedule, which I think is really fan-friendly.
I'm curious on what we see locally with that and league-wide, if that does make a difference, like Dave said, for the families, where you're playing a little bit earlier. I don't think the time is as important as the weather. I think the weather has a bigger factor on whether you're making a decision to go to the football game. If it's 31 degrees and no wind and you're at the cabin, you might pull a chute. Doesn't matter what time the game starts, just because it's a great day at the lake. Where if it's 20 degrees or 22 degrees, that could be a football game day rather than a stay at the lake day.
Well, I think there's also the economic spin-off too, right? Because if I'm coming in, I'm going to go out and get a bite to eat, stop in at a Western Pizza, right? And take care of that for the family before we take off back on the road. So I don't know. I agree with you that weather is a huge factor too, but I think this is a unique experiment, and we'll see where it goes. Again, you'll find out by the gate receipts whether it was well received or not, right?
I don't know. The one that I'm curious to see is Friday, October 10th. Like you said, the Friday of Thanksgiving.
Yep.
In Saskatchewan, weather-wise, everything's on the table.
It is, but it's usually a great time of year. It usually is.
No, it's because of how the things have changed climate-wise. Like September's your best month to golf, almost in Saskatchewan now, where it used to, wasn't the case years ago. But
Marty, I've seen you play. I don't think any month is good for you, pal.
I'm turning in,
That's hurtful.
Indoor guy.
You took the wind Tiger last week, did you?
Yeah, I lost the ball at the Royal in indoor golf somehow. I don't know. I was like, what do I do? But back on track. It's but just that, people are traveling so much on that Thanksgiving. Are they going to be traveling that much? I know being from up north is put a cabin to bed weekend.
It is
for a lot of people.
Yep.
And
but it is on Friday night. It's not in the middle of the weekend. It is on Friday night, so you could still get back for Saturday and carry on accordingly.
Hey, so no neutral site game, as Farhan Lalji reported first here on the almighty SportsCage. We're not seeing that across the league, but they're really trying to sell us and want us to put stock in this Stampede Bowl game, where it's a game that the Calgary Stampeders, I forget who are they hosting? Ottawa? Or is it Montreal? Somebody.
Give me a sec. I'll tell you in one moment.
The day before Stampede kicks off in Calgary. So they're really thinking that this could be a thing. Anyone that I know that goes to Stampede or has gone to Stampede, they ain't going to give a rip if you got a football game the day before.
It's an odd combination. It's like trying to combine Craven with a football game.
Yeah. But 20 and 30-year-olds, it's like, we got to get to that football game. No, we got to go get blasted at the bar and get on the pub crawl.
But think of the possibilities, though, right? How many extra people are in Calgary anyways for the Stampede? So you've got a captivated crew who may be looking for something to do. So why not kick off Stampede? I bet you they're going to have an amazing pregame concert, halftime show. Why wouldn't you bring it in, right?
2-1 odds, Paul Brandt. George Canyon.
Paul Brandt.
Who else is from that area that lives there? I don't know, Dave.
Canyon,
I just, yeah, there we go. Maybe a little Michelle Wright somewhere in there. I think that there's a lot to do when it comes to Stampede and around there. That football might be down on the list. Like, you're in town for Stampede, and someone says, "Hey, want to go to this football game?"
Especially playing Ottawa.
Or do you want to go cruise out to Banff and kind of see things there for a bit?
If it was Calgary Regina or Calgary the Riders, that's a different story. But Calgary Ottawa,
it would be. We'll see. That's what I'm saying. I'm curious to see that one. Labor Day is back. So the one, and you know what? It's funny. Is Saskatchewan, Montreal, August 2nd. I was hoping that one was later in the year. Kids are maybe in school and maybe take mama and do a little trip to Montreal.
Oh, look at you,
and go watch the
vacation type.
But August 2nd is that's going to be hard. Speaking of losing balls, I'll be up in Waskesiu.
Now, I also should mention that Stampede Bowl, by the way, is against Winnipeg.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So
that might
maybe
help.
that's a bit better draw, right?
Makes more sense. The September 13th game, 5 o'clock against Montreal. Keith Urban takes the stage at the Brant Center later that night. That'll be a very busy reel from
former Grey Cup performer Keith Urban.
Yeah. So maybe that was one of the hang-ups in putting the schedule together.
Oh, right now there's people listening that are just sitting there going, there is no way I am driving anywhere near Mosaic Stadium or the Brant Center that day.
No, you're going to take an Uber or a cab or a bus or something.
Yeah, and if you're taking an Uber or a cab, plan 45 to an hour in advance.
Yeah.
It's going to be a zoo.
You're only going to be able to get in from the west side because the east side's blocked for all those roads are blocked.
Yeah,
oh,
man.
Boy.
The people hopping the tracks and doing weird things.
Somebody's phoning Keith Urban's camp right now, see if he wants to play Saturday instead.
Why not do both? It's a 5 o'clock start. By the time the game's over, that's 8:30. And what time is Keith going to take the stage anyways?
Get Keith to play a brunch. Keith, you're on it. You're on at 1.
He'll do halftime.
Waffles, eggs, Benny, and Keith. Sell it like that. Market it up. No, that is that's a busy place.
Yeah, that's going to be chaos.
You got a rider game if monster trucks are in town. That the things could explode there.
Yep.
It's so chaotic. The poor traffic people that are trying to tell vehicles right. Yeah. 150-pound dude in his little orange jacket's trying to tell Dooley guy from Carnduff where he's like
going to go.
Get lost.
Well, and Dooley guy from Carnduff and no offense to Carnduff, Dooley guy's going to come in and try to drive down Elphinstone Street to go in on the east side, and that's going to be blocked, and then he's going to just abandon the vehicle.
Does Keith Urban show up at the rider game?
I don't know why he wouldn't. It's going to be there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Take it in.
Why wouldn't he?
Big CFL guy.
Swing by.
Australian kickers in the league.
Is ours Australian? Is our punter Australian?
Corsack.
Yeah.
Yeah. He went to high school with Keith Urban.
Get out.
I'm just kidding. I love when I can get sharky. Anything else league wide, Dave, on the schedule?
Oh boy. Yeah, no, nothing else. Everything else is just par for the course. But yeah, there you go.
This is probably why you avoid this program, because it does crazy sideways. Colson's got something.
So I noticed the last year they did those triple bye weeks later in the season.
Yeah.
This year they've spread them out. So the first one's in week 6. And then the second one is actually week 13, which is the Labor Day weekend. So there's 3 teams on Labor Day weekend getting the week off, which I'm curious about that decision. I guess you want it in the middle of the season, and that's when it is. But yeah, last year they were all sandwiched in like the last 5 weeks. So in that back end, you had almost every team getting a bye in the last 5 weeks, which I think this, again, balances the schedule out more. So on the one hand, I think it's a good call, spreading it out. On the other hand, I'm like, why are you giving 3 teams Labor Day weekend off?
Do you have the league's schedule up?
I'm looking at it, yeah.
Who has buys the last 2 weeks?
Last 2 weeks? Last 2 weeks, we're playing Winnipeg, Edmonton, BC, Montreal, Ottawa, Calgary, and Toronto, meaning, who did I miss there? Hamilton, week 20, does not play. And then Toronto, week 21, does not play.
Well, 2 Eastern teams, I guess.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah.
Don't care about them.
That's a good point.
And Calgary the week before.
Good point, Colson. All right. We got Malik Carney coming up. Thanks, Dave.
Have a great day, and take a drop when you lose your ball indoors at golf, Barney. That's what you do. I looked it up.
I'm picturing you wandering around the bar and they're going, "Does anyone see my ball?"
The only place I didn't look was downstairs. I'm like, who knows? Could have ended up there. To all these SportsCage, we're streaming at sportscage.com.